For the Country Viewpoint program, we're speaking with Nick Crundall from Market Check. Nick, how are the markets looking, first of all, for our grain growers?
Yeah, so starting off abroad, the market's been coming off quite a bit. We've seen a lot of cheap wheat coming out of the Black Sea region now that the export corridor agreement has been extended between Russia and Ukraine. So there's just a lot of wheat in that part of the world, and it's aggressively being sold, which has just been putting a bit of a weight on prices. And then here in Australia, we haven't been immune to that, so our prices have been falling, but it's also compounded by the fact that we've finally had some decent harvest weather, which means that there's a lot of tonnes hitting the bins at the moment, and there's been some pretty aggressive selling from the grower community, so our prices have been falling as well. So the last couple of weeks has been a pretty weak sort of situation across grain market.
Yeah, I noticed when we last checked in with ABARES, and I think their last report was in September, how big the crop was going to be. I think they'll update that in December. They were talking 55 million tonne. Last we could sort of see in terms of what's reported in receivables, leaving aside on-farm storage. At the start of summer, we've only got about, say, 20%, 15-20% of the crop in.
Yeah, it's been a really slow harvest. We've got clients of ours that would be well and truly into their wheat by now, and if not finishing their entire programs who have barely started. So we're starting to see a huge ramp up in the receivables. I know CBH on the West Coast and some sites in South Australia have broken their records for the amount of grain received in one day. So it'll definitely catch up very quickly to a more normal progression through harvest over the next couple of weeks if this weather can stay like it is.
Yeah, it's been at least reasonably mild and a bit more sunshine, and most importantly, not much rain. I think that's still holding up the canola harvest as well, last I checked. How things are looking on that front?
Yeah, the canola's been interesting. There's been widespread issues across the East Coast with mould, and so there's been a lot of talk and angst about what the bulk handlers are going to take and whether they're going to take the mouldy canola or not. But we're starting to see more and more canola hit the bins. Unfortunately, the quality has been, from a broad sense, pretty poor with the mould quality issues. But as you get into Victoria and through South Australia, it sort of improves. So the canola harvest especially is progressing quickly as everyone takes advantage of the clearer weather.
Yeah, I just wonder on that one, even though that price might be coming down on canola, looking at one indicator I've got here from Kwinana, nonetheless, still better than the same time last year and indeed the year before that.
Yeah, historically, canola prices are still very good. They were being held up, especially in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks, by the fact that there wasn't much grower selling because of the non-stop rain that we're seeing. So that was keeping a lot of people from the market. And the offshore prices have been very good as well. We've seen a sort of pretty substantial fall in the last week or so, but that's only from a very high base. So the good news is that the crops for canola, nationally speaking, are going to be a record, and the prices, albeit weaker than they were a few weeks ago, are still favourable for growers who are looking to sell.
Yeah, good news across the board generally, and not some falls in prices for our grain growers, but nonetheless, for some perspective, still travelling pretty well compared to certainly where we were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, if you look at the deciles pricing, we're still at the upper end. We are very cheap versus the rest of the world because the world prices are very elevated given what's happening over in Ukraine. But the good news is even if we are cheap versus our overseas competitors, the outright prices are still, not too bad.
Great. Thanks, Nick Crundall from Market Check, for joining us today on Flow. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.